This is a powerful
We're
new
going to
concept.
revolutionize
It's
voice
really all
messages where
about
we
data
want to go.
collection and
We
analysis.
need to have an active
Fresh
voice.
ideas are what we
A
really
passive
need.
voice won't get us where we want to go.
You are listening to Active Voice with your host Llewellyn King.
Hello and welcome to Active Voice. I am Llewellyn King, the host. Today, my very special guest, is David Naylor, President and CEO of Rayburn Electric in Rockwall, Texas. Welcome to the broadcast, David.
Well, nice to be here.
Well, I'm glad to see you. How is life down there in Rockwall, Texas? First of all, you might tell us exactly where Rockwall is. It's not known to everyone, or not by that name anyway.
Yeah, so Rockwall we're basically about 20 miles east of downtown Dallas, just outside of the Metroplex. That's our headquarters. Of course, our service territory we have about 16 counties that are north and east of the Dallas Metroplex, representing some of the fastest growing areas, not only in the state of Texas, but in the nation.
And you are a rural electric cooperative association. Is that
We are. I don't know how rural, we still have a few rural areas, but as the areas from Dallas have expanded, we're certainly more and more suburban. But yeah, our history is from the Rural Electric Cooperative Association. Rayburn itself is what we call a generation and transmission cooperative. So we provide wholesale power, and we have 4 distribution cooperatives who serve retail and serve retail to roughly almost 250,000 folks in the Texas area.
And you're growing very fast. What is your rate of growth?
So we're seeing in the last few years, we've actually seen about 8 and some places even as high as 10% growth. Our long-term growth projections are around between 3 and 4% on an annual basis. Significant growth. A lot of new subdivisions coming in. We're heavily residential, about 85% roughly of residential load. And then we're starting to see more and more commercial or some small commercial as the Walmarts and CVS pharmacies and those type of industries and businesses develop and add to accommodate the additional growth that are people moving here.
2050 has become a witching number. It's the number that the government puts out and many other organizations put out when it is hoped that electric generation will be net zero, put no carbon or other pollutants into the air. But in that same time frame from now and then, the way you just described it, your load is going to at least double and maybe more. How are you going to meet those two conflicting goals?
I think, the engineer in me wants to say we won't. We're going to figure out how to serve the load and make sure it's reliable. But the practical, or I guess that's not the practical, but the other side of it is I am expecting new technologies, and we've seen a lot of development in this space as we move forward. And so I'm optimistic that we can accommodate both. Our priority is going to be make sure that the people have electricity, and then we'll figure out the other side of it. There's the batteries becoming more and more common. They're getting, I think that technology is going to be getting better and better. Distributed resources, that's the other thing that you've got is we're balancing both on what's historically the supply side, but also, the other side of what's at people's homes, giving them more of a choice, giving them more say, and how they want to help. And so collaboratively, that's where I think rubber's going to meet the road to meet those objectives.
Enlarge a little bit on what you're doing with distributed generation and what it means for those viewers who are not familiar with the term.
Sure. So simplistically, it's resources at people's homes. You can think of somebody may put a backup generator at their homes. They may put, especially as we're seeing more and more electric vehicles, people are putting the chargers and they're adding, Tesla's power walls, or Generac's got a battery system that goes to for the homes. Certainly rooftop solar. Even the thermostats and different things that we have had for a long time. I think people are getting more comfortable, and they're starting to recognize how they can have an impact and make a difference. And I think folks like having that control in their hands. And so, we're trying to work with them uh, and incentivize them to where, again, like I said, it's a collaborative effort. We're able to accommodate what we need. The members at the end of the line are able to do what they want, and it comes out to be a win-win. Though that's from a distributed resources, that's the main thing we're looking at. There's certainly other options that we have that may be instead of being at the at people's homes, or maybe a little bit further up the system, but not necessarily your big power plants that people are used to seeing.
Is there a high penetration of rooftop solar in your service territory?
I won't say it's a high penetration, but it's certainly growing. And we're probably in that 15, maybe 20% penetration, if it's even that high. But again, it's not uncommon to be driving through and you're like, wait a minute, that house has rooftop solar, whereas a couple of years ago it didn't. I'll tell you, Winter Storm Uri has really stepped up folks doing something on their side of the meter, or their
And
homes.
that was the catastrophic cold attack in February 2021.
Correct.
And what has that done to the grid in Texas?
So I think it certainly heightened the awareness of need for the infrastructure. I think that there's one of the things that's kind of been a fallout of that, and is there's definitely a recognition that we don't have enough generation on the grid to be able to meet our growing demand. And not only do we have challenges needing additional generation or additional resources, but the infrastructure necessary to support those resources, be it natural gas pipelines, being it wind turbines that froze up. We had all types of resources had problems due to the extreme cold. All types of resources had problems performing, and there's a significant amount of resources that were just out during those extreme weather events. And I think that's what really is highlighted from Winter Storm Uri, and that's a lot of discussion going on here in Texas is how does the market need to be redesigned to incentivize that infrastructure.
That is a so-called energy only market in which there is no provision for reserves, in the hope the market itself will create reserves, which hasn't in fact happened. Am I right?
That is correct. Energy only, you get paid when you produce, and you don't get paid to have it just sitting idly by.
Now, in other parts of the country, they have a different marketing system where there is day-ahead pricing and there is a statutory requirement to maintain reserves. Is that correct?
Yeah, ERCOT has, or in Texas, we have a day-ahead market, but there is no required reserves. So, and to your point, other markets do have that incentive for some type of capacity or reserves that requires people to have those resources. Llewellyn, I'll tell you, across the nation, I'm not seeing a lot of folks who are building new, I'll call it dispatchable resources. Obviously, we got a lot of renewables that are there that, as the wind blows or as the sun shines, they produce and can produce well. But that dispatchable or that controllable resources, that's the challenge. And I think during Winter Storm Uri, one of the challenges in ERCOT was it was cloudy days, and the wind wasn't blowing as hard, which meant that some of that resources just weren't there. I'll contrast that with Winter Storm Elliott that we just had here in December, and it was a bright sunny day and very windy, and the wind resources and the solar resources performed very well, and frankly, ERCOT needed it.
And Texas has the largest wind and solar deployment, doesn't it? People think of it as all being natural gas and oil because it's Texas, but in fact, has been a leader in renewable resources.
We have a lot of hot air in Texas.
And are you referring to the political system or to the energy provision?
You can take it both ways.
How politicized has energy become since Uri?
I think it's been very politicized, and I mean, it's unfortunate, but I understand the concerns. The feeling was that that the market had not reacted the way that it should have in terms of building the new resources. And I mean, let's be honest, Llewellyn, people lost their lives, and that's a significant impetus to make changes. And and they lost lives because power was out, and it was out for extended periods of time, and that's just not acceptable. So it definitely got politicized, and unfortunately, then one of the fallouts is you have a lot of people that are thinking they know what's going on and how to fix it, and sometimes thinking through the whole process and the impacts and the residual effects just get lost in the shuffle.
Let's come back to Rayburn. What is your generation mix?
So our generation mix, honestly, is heavily natural gas. We're probably in that 50 to 60% natural gas range. We have a minority interest in a combined cycle natural gas facility that is our predominant resources. We have some hydro as well as solar in our mix. And those probably are around the 10% mark. As one of our challenges, as we talked about earlier, is as our load grows, then those percentages decrease, and so we continue to look at other opportunities to add that type into the mix. But that's the predominant mix that we have. The rest it's market purchases, either short-term contracts or what have you.
What is your future? Is it to build more yourself or buy more?
So, it's interesting, Llewellyn, and we're actually in the process of negotiating to acquire an existing natural gas facility. I'll tell you, that's a strategic change for Rayburn. Rayburn has always historically focused on short-term purchases, and frankly, leaning on the market more. But as we look down the road, and one of the attractions of this resource was it's still in the ground, it's dispatchable. It gives us ability to mitigate and hedge against a lot of uncertainty. It's performed well during both Winter Storm Uri and during Elliott. And, we're looking from a value standpoint to our members, and it's like, this could be a really good deal.
This is a combined cycle unit somewhere?
It is.
Are you going to tell me what it is?
Unfortunately, right now, I can't due to confidentiality, but here in a couple of months, we're hoping to close on it. So at that point, I'll be able.
That's very interesting. Combined cycle, I think it's worth sharing with people. It's very efficient, isn't it?
It is.
You're an engineer. What is the efficiency roughly on a coal plant?
Llewellyn, I'm an engineer, but I haven't done real engineering in a long time.
It's about 32%.
Yeah.
What is the efficiency on your combined cycle?
So we'll be close to 60%, maybe even 70.
That's amazingly high
for
anything.
It is.
I mean, people don't understand efficiency very well. How inefficient, for example, an automobile is.
Right.
It's down about 10% or something. something very low or 15, but that's the conversion of energy to actual usable power. And when you look forward, solar, you get a lot of sunshine where you are. It also, I think you've told me in previous conversations, you like the shape of it. It fits the shape of your load. Would you like to expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, so with our load being heavily residential, like I said, 85 to 90%, when our load, it's people are using their air conditioning units, for example, during the summer, during the parts of the days when it's the hottest, and that's typically when the sun is out and shining brightly. So solar is a great way for us to capture that energy and utilize it to meet our loads. Even during the winter, you know, on those sunshiny days, again, it fits. The sun is shining when our people. I mean, people aren't using a lot of electricity in their homes when it's dark, and so capturing that sunshine is a nice way for us to uh, balance that solar energy, and again, it's just a great fit for our residential load.
You are listening to Active Voice with your host Llewellyn King.
What is your investment in batteries and other storage, if there is alternative storage?
Yeah, so right now we have not invested anything in batteries. We've been talking to several vendors, and we've got our eye on it. But as far as actual investment, we don't have anything yet. We just haven't quite been able to get it to pencil out. Again, one of the challenges that we face right now is just the fact that as the ERCOT market is talking about being redesigned, if we jump in with batteries, we want to make sure that they're going to qualify and fit the signal that the market redesign is sending.
The dominant battery is lithium ion, but there are others on the horizon, many of which don't have of course, in a utility, they don't have a weight penalty, which means you don't have to super lightweight lithium. What are you looking at besides lithium?
So that's the primary one that we've been looking at. I think there's some others that are out there that we've had minimal conversations with. I'll tell you, Llewellyn, one of the things that we're doing as much as anything is thinking of how can we leverage some of the electric vehicles. Again, one of the things, again, it's a kind of a fallout. In some ways, it's a fallout from Uri, but from Uri, a lot of people went and put backup generators in their homes. Just as the market has changed, even on the automobiles, more and more people are bringing electric vehicles and then having to upgrade their facilities in their homes where they can, charge it. So, we're looking at that as a great opportunity for us. We're not having to make that investment in that infrastructure because the consumers are already making it for them because that's what they want. And
that is what you might call the Uberization.
That's exactly. And can we make this work for both them and us? And I think that's a great opportunity for us, and it saves our members money.
Have you done any work on the grid, not the grid, but on the market design? How would you compensate the homeowner for helping you out? And would it be more than the homeowner pays you to buy electricity the rest of the day?
So our members actually already have net metering in place, and so to the extent they produce more than they consume, they do get a credit for that. What we're looking at as far as these type of resources, for example, let me just pick on the backup generators. Those things need to be maintained, and so we may be able to give a credit for the homeowner to do maintenance on that. Again, it's something that the homeowner needs to do, and certainly if as a utility, if we're going to rely on it, we need to know that it's going to perform. And so, it's some way that we are able to compensate for that. In other cases, maybe it's just a fixed dollar amount that's a credit on their bill or just a check even. We've got some of both.
And that is in place, it's operating now, ready to go.
We are in the process, so it's in place in certain areas, not system-wide yet, but we're pedaling as fast as we can to get that get that prepared. It certainly, hopefully, it's in place, as fully for the summer.
Philosophically, how do you see the future of electricity? We have huge environmental demands on generators and limited ability of the generators to accede to those demands.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is where, I think at the end of the day, this is, I mean, it's hard to believe. I've been in the energy space or electric utility space and co-ops for almost 30 years now, but this is the most exciting time for us to be in the industry that I've ever experienced. So, I think that one of the attractions and one of the exciting things is we're looking at how, I mean, we're just looking at all sorts of new ways of how we can meet these requirements. How can we continue to improve efficiencies? Llewellyn, I'll tell you the other thing that we're really spending a lot of time and effort on is just simply the data. You've got in the electric utility space, I mean, certainly here in ERCOT, I mean, we're measuring loads instantaneously. ERCOT is calculating reliability, every few seconds and publishing that every 5 minutes. And we have billing data based on every 15 minutes or every hour. And so when you look and think about every single point across our system, or every single home, that's a tremendous amount of data. And I think one of the areas that the utilities have been slow to recognize is how can we utilize that data? We've always had the data. We've always known that it was there, but frankly, it's been the Amazons and the Googles and, getting into this space and figuring out how people, operate, how they react. I mean, it's easy to say, hey, Alexa, turn on my AC. And if we can take that data and we start to improve some of our models and forecasting, all of a sudden, some of the extra that we have to buy, if you will, I mean, our efficiencies can improve dramatically if we can improve. Okay, well, we know what this homeowner, this type of home is going to produce or going to desire. This is your typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and living in this particular neighborhood, you have this certain type of income level that says, hey, they're going to have X number of TVs, and they're going to have this electric vehicle. You have this other neighborhood maybe has a little higher end homes, and they're using something different. And we can start to tailor and adjust and even be more specific. Instead of just buying a one size fits all type product, we can start to piecemeal those things together. And I'll tell you what, we could fit some things and save our members some money. And, I think that's just mind boggling to me when you start to think about the potential of what we're able to do.
What about data mining? Do you have data miners on your system?
So we have a few data centers, not anything major right now. We had a few crypto loads that were actively looking, but they never developed on our particular system. I'll tell you though, that was, we have one of our members whose total load was going to be basically quadrupled with one of these data centers, and that's a whole nother list of challenges. Not only from a reliability standpoint, but just attaining the power to get it. I mean, we were going to do it, but that was going to be a unique set of circumstances.
There's also risk there, not just risk that they may go bottoms up, but risk that the need for extensive mining may disappear. There may be a workaround. There are lots of attempts to work around it so that you can have a blockchain world which doesn't have to have the proof of work calculation done every time, which is what uses all the electricity. So it's a very interesting challenge.
Yeah. And one of the things that was interesting about it too, was, for example, you're talking about a lot of the risk. Well, you had the risk of reliability. Well, that one we're used to. We can open up a switch if we needed to bring them off, and that's easy enough. But the other side of that, from a risk standpoint, is also the financial risk. And are they going to pay? And is there a cash flow timing issue? And that raised another interesting deal. Is while we can open up switches for reliability purposes all the time, anytime we need to. Um, can you do that same thing for economic reasons? Um, that's that's another challenge. And then of course, the thought was, well, these guys will get off when the prices of electricity are high. And we were a little skeptical of that. I mean, they may be able to, yes, but if that Bitcoin or crypto value was, I mean, high prices of electricity may still be a small cost for them to pay to keep on getting the value of that Bitcoin. And again, it was an interesting dynamic. Obviously, it's slowed down now, but that was a fun discussion.
You said that one Bitcoin miner might be quadruple the output, the delivery of one of your members. What is your total installed capacity, or what is the capacity you deliver? What is your rating in megawatts?
Sure. So we're during the summer, we'll peak out at 1,200 megawatts. Winter, we're actually a winter peaking system, but usually it's just when that cold front comes through, because we'll get to 1,200 megawatts or even 1,300 megawatts during the winter during that cold. But generally, we're a 1,200 megawatt system.
A slightly engineering philosophical issue. There's a lot of attention at the moment to direct current. Part of it because solar produces direct current, partly because we seem to have solved the problem of using it for heavy transmission, large line transmission, because the technology of stepping it down into alternating current is better. In a system like yours, what does direct current mean?
So our challenge, and it's funny, I'm sure Edison is telling Tesla, I told you direct current was the way to go. But for our system, it's we're probably a little on the small side for the direct current. It maybe perhaps in isolated areas, that may be a way to help and improve some of the reliability in certain areas. But certainly across our system, we're so interconnected with bigger utilities that it makes it tough for us to truly embrace a direct current.
What happens to the direct coming off all those rooftop solars? It is converted to AC in the house?
Yes, there's inverters there that convert it.
So it's a relatively simple. How about new hookups in your service territory? Do you have supply problems, transformer problems, shortages?
So we are definitely seeing the supply chain issues hit. We're, some of our members now are running out of meters, or having to certainly to slow some of that install just as they get those requests, or they may have been planning to upgrade certain areas and now they're having to, shift that around. We've got some breakers, for example, the lead times are, 54 weeks, and it's just, I mean, it's nuts, but we're definitely seeing that supply chain challenge.
Labor problems?
We're not having labor problems. We're doing well from that standpoint. We got people that work hard, and we've got contractors that that have been very dependable as well.
What are the problems that you feel day to day?
So on a day-to-day basis, I mean, I can tell you one is just the weather, just because that's a significant impact on our system. Again, with our system, every degree during the summer that we're off, that we miss from the weather forecast is about 25 megawatts of load. So if it's hotter or colder on our system, then we could be short our power by quite a bit, depending on how good that weather forecast is. So that's probably the first and foremost the biggest one. The other challenge that we have day to day is it's as a result of some of the supply chain and some of the upgrades that we want to do or have in place. It just we're having to make do until we have the infrastructure and the equipment to be able to put in place. So that's those are probably the two biggest things. Those are both very much operational. That's really probably our biggest
Finally,
concern.
David, most utility executives say cybersecurity keeps them awake at night. You look quite well rested.
Yeah, well, and so sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right? Our cybersecurity is definitely a concern, and I guess now while you bring up the cybersecurity, even the physical security, with the stations that were hit in North Carolina and out in the Pacific Northwest, those are real issues that we're tracking and we're monitoring. On cybersecurity, we've got some great IT folks that are putting in place. I mean, of course, nothing is guaranteed to eliminate that, but we've got some we make a conscious effort to keep our equipment up to date, replace it when it we probably replace it more often than maybe some others, because we want to be proactive where we can. And then the physical security side of things, that one's a tough. We have a lot of rural stations, and we can put we have cameras in our stations already, but there's a lot of hunters out there too. That I mean, for that matter, our right of ways during our transmission lines, there's a lot of deer stands.
Let me ask you in closing something about David Naylor, human being, as opposed to David Naylor, electric executive. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your family.
Sure. So sometimes it's hard to distinguish, but no, my wife and I, we're actually just celebrated our 28th wedding anniversary. We're actually high school sweethearts. I convinced her to come to Texas with me, so that was great. But she's actually a highly successful in her own right as a real estate agent and personal trainer. By the way, I'm her worst client for the personal training standpoint. We got 2 kids, both actually had 2 COVID weddings, so both of them got married during COVID, and so it's 1 daughter, 1 son. So I've completed that, but very proud of both of them as well.
Wonderful, David, and wonderful to have you as my guest on Active Voice. Thank you so much.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers.